have devoted so much of myself to fighting injustice, but I have learned that no matter how pure or powerful your efforts are, you are up against a corrupt machine that will squash you again and again. For instance, in an action that was in response to worsening climate change, I demanded that all fossil fuel production stop immediately. If this did not happen, I would throw a container full of salsa onto the Mona Lisa. Amazingly, they did not heed my warning, and I did what I said I would do. The Mona Lisa was covered in salsa, and yet the fossil fuel interests continued to poison the world. But I regret that action, I really do. I didn't have a lot of time to prepare, so I wasn't able to find a non-plastic container. I will say that the salsa in question was vegan at least. But I realized that by using a condiment from a culture that I am not part of, I was crossing a line that I should not have crossed. I implicated that culture in my action without its consent, effectively co-opting that culture. And I threw the salsa without a true understanding of its context within that culture. I was as bad as any other colonial power. But I did the work after that, and my next action was to throw non-dairy gluten-free macaroni and cheese soup on Picasso's Gertrude Stein and demand that the patriarchy relinquish its power. They didn't listen. You'll notice the patriarchy has not stepped down. You'll also notice that Gertrude Stein is stained by non-dairy gluten-free macaroni and cheese soup, and that's a reminder that someone did actually try to do something, that this someone refused to just sit down and take it. Of course, I feel kind of bad about Gertrude Stein being the target. Some have argued that by splashing non-dairy gluten-free macaroni and cheese soup all over the painting of a queer icon, I have splashed on dairy gluten-free macaroni and cheese soup all over queerness as a whole. But I have to ask why Gertrude Stein sat for a misogynist like Pablo Picasso? You can make that lame argument that she was a person of the times she lived in, but there were hundreds, probably even thousands of people who did not sit for a portrait with Pablo Picasso. If all those people knew what the right thing to do was, why didn't Gertrude Stein? People really love to criticize activism and say there's no point to it. They ask stuff like, why'd you throw a can of baked beans all over Monet's House of Parliament? It's so pretty. Think, people, think. The House of Parliament was central to the system of colonization. Baked beans are made with molasses, which was central to slavery. Baked beans are a Boston dish, and during the Boston Tea Party, white men dressed up as Native Americans to dump the tea, which is wrong on so many levels. Plus, the beans that are used in baked beans are typically GMO beans, and GMO beans not only kill millions of people every year, but cause humans to produce internal gas with 3 times more methane per toot as a single cow. So the next time you see canned food like soup or something dripping off the birth of Venus, don't be all knee-jerk and just get upset. Ask yourself a question. What is the meaning behind that chipotle and cheese clam chowder that's covering Botticelli's masterpiece? What is that chipotle and cheese clam chowder trying to tell me?